Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, whoever the Chiefs put up at the podium. We may hear from Clark Hunt today, I'm realizing now. Something to keep in mind back there, Dylan. Maybe worth mentioning to Covell as well. We can go live to him. I don't know if he would go first or last, but oftentimes he'll speak when the Chiefs clinch the division. But we'll take those pressers as we get them. And if you're on the phone and the owner of the Chiefs comes up, we got to cut you off or delay the phones for a little bit. No offense, but you can go ahead. Dylan's taking the calls now. 913-381-0810. You can also leave your comments on the 810 video feeds across social media: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Or you can just tweet me at JB Brisco, and maybe I'll try to read some mentions today as we celebrate an 8th straight division for the Chiefs. But what did we learn? And as a lot of Chiefs fans are reasonably asking right now, what does this mean for what happens when the playoff games do come? Because now we know they will. We don't have to guess or wonder or fear or speculate. There will be playoff games. There will be at least one played at Arrowhead Stadium, and if they win that one, life will go on, and we'll see where the matchups shake out after that. One thing very small that I'll mention now that I think will just be something funny to keep in mind for next week. Again, the Chiefs should really treat this as a bye, but Travis Kelce just finished that game with 984 receiving yards on the season by my quick back-of-the-napkin math. He needs 16 yards to break 1,000 again. I wonder if the Chiefs will send him back out there to do that. One or two catches could get him there. Obviously, him getting hurt would be devastating, but something to keep in mind when Andy Reid starts getting asked about what the plan for next week is. No one meaningful should play meaningful snaps, is how I will lay out what the plan should be from here. But in a lot of ways, as has become the norm, this was a 2023 Chiefs game. That is different than what we thought 2023 Chiefs games were going to be when this season began. But here, on the last day of the year, this was exactly who this team has been. I want to go back to the first half because that paints the picture. Then we'll start taking some calls early again if these pressers do start rolling through. I want to keep the pace moving tonight so everybody can enjoy the ringing of the new year. But this game starts with the defense allowing a long drive, but no killer penalties. So they hold the Bengals to 3 points. The offense puts together an absolutely immaculate drive, one of the best drives this season, and they go put up 7. Great start. The defense then allows another kind of unbothered drive. Nick Bolton spins a drive chasing. The Bengals score a touchdown there. And then the Chiefs did the Chiefs thing that has bit them so many times this year. You get a crushing strip sack turnover, gives the Bengals a short field. They convert into 7 points there, not because the defense couldn't hold them, but because a Snead DPI keeps the drive alive. Bengals get another shot at it, score the touchdown. The Chiefs get the ball back, and they drive, but then Mahomes misses Kelce for a first down. It's a Mahomes mistake there. They settle for a field goal. The defense then gives them a 3-and-out, and a crushing MVS drop costs them a first down and probably 4 points on that drive, settling for yet another field goal. They got to halftime at 17-13, and that felt sort of like a miracle at the time. And then in the second half, you got literally nothing but Harrison Butker points. 3 at a time. Nothing from Cincinnati, because the Chiefs defense does the thing that it does pretty consistently now. Plays a better second half than first half. This defense is legitimately really good. They got on one drive early in the game. They end up on a short field. Should have gotten out of there, but the penalty becomes an issue. And I'm sure we'll talk about MVS plenty today. The drop off of the the Norma Hunt Memorial patch, and maybe he wanted it on his hip, or maybe he was frustrated. The gesticulation after the play made him look like he was telling Mahomes he really wanted that ball on his hip, not on his numbers. You have the deep shot later that goes through his hands in a mind-blowingly frustrating fashion. But in the second half, you get the moments that remind you that Rashee Rice is the guy who has explosive ability, not just when catching the ball horizontally, but pushing it downfield, you get the Rashee Rice play. Huge. And an element of this offense that's been largely missing. You get one great play in that along those lines with Justin Watson, and you get a defensive performance that shuts out the Bengals in the second half and that makes Jake Browning look like a backup and not like Joe Burrow reincarnated. And Browning looked good for most of the game, and then the last two drives, teeing off on him like you want to tee off on a backup. All in all, I don't think that anything changes in my perception of this Chiefs team after this game today. But that doesn't mean they didn't win the AFC West right here. I was worried in the first half that we would be talking next week about the Chiefs needing to beat Easton Stick to win the division, a division that they have owned the 7 previous years, a division that should have been practically wrapped up weeks ago and should have been literally wrapped up at least a couple weeks ago, at least last week. But they get it done today, and I think really this is a Chiefs team that looks like a team that should be celebrating a division. Not from the Chiefs' usual standards and perspectives, but just like in the scope of what an NFL team is. This is what a imperfect, sloppy, good enough, better than the other 3 teams in your division winner looks like. Now, the Chiefs' track record and recent history, that all paints the picture of a team that shouldn't be buying the division t-shirts or having those be the goal of the season. We're at a point now where you buy Super Bowl merch, maybe some AFC Championship merch, maybe some things about that. Like maybe you get a nice 8-time champion divisional hat or t-shirt or sweater or something. You can go ahead and rock that because it's celebrating the accomplishment of nearly a decade of doing that here in Kansas City. But I bet most Chiefs fans listening now are more worried about the flaws than they are celebrating the division. And I'm not telling you that's the wrong way to be. That's just the standard this team is set. But the version of this team that we have seen this year should be absolutely popping bottles for a division. Absolutely happy to take next week off. Let that game just roll on against backups, and it can be Blaine Gabbert versus Easton Stick. And then you get ready for the Dolphins or Bills, most likely, to come to Arrowhead, and you get to watch that game at home next week and decide. I guess they will probably get to watch it at home, but watch that game next week. Figure out who you're playing, who you're prepping for, and then we'll all freak out about whoever it comes to Arrowhead out of the AFC East. But it seems like that's probably where this is shaking out right now. And for the moment, as we all begin to look ahead at 2024, I think it is worth appreciating over the 8 years how incredible it is that the Chiefs have done this again. Or as the Chiefs tweeted out a little bit ago, back to 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 back. That's an unbelievable accomplishment, despite how frustrating and scatterbrained and difficult this year was. That's an amazing accomplishment for this football team. Much more to go. Plenty of concerns from this game, from everything else this year. This game really fit the mold of what a 2023 Chiefs game has been. But 8 in a row is a legitimate accomplishment, even as this game and this entire season has had moments of very clear frustration. We'll start taking your calls here in just a second, but first, I'm going to go ahead and do something that we would do at some point. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. I'm going to give him the green light, and I'm going to give it to Harrison Butker. This game was on the shoulder of Isaiah Pacheco and Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice, but this game was on the foot of Harrison Butker. He gets the green light today, presented by Green Light Dispensary. Green Light Dispensary, outstanding customer service, superior product, and continuously voted Missouri's best. You can check out their hours and the locations, the details, all online at greenlightdispensary.com. Find a location near you today, and you can come see us out at the Green Light, at the Underground, at the Green Light Independence location coming up this Friday in the Zone. I'll be out there from 10 to 2. That's all from Green Light Dispensary. Visit them online at greenlightdispensary.com. And Dylan, how are we feeling right now? You want to try to sneak in a quick break here and then come back, start taking calls? Or what's our commercial situation? Go ahead and let's start. I guess if we get... Let's take some calls, because if Clark Hunt shows up, I'm going to have to put you back on hold so we can hear him live. And then Dylan, just talk to me as we're rolling there. I'll keep an eye on all the moving parts to hopefully hear from Clark Hunt, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and maybe a couple of players over the course of the evening here as well. But we'll start it off with the phones with Travis. Travis, you're on 810. What's up, man? How you doing?
I actually feel a lot better than at the end of the game than I did midway through the game. I know that the offense still had an issue, but, I mean, the one problem that they had was the tackle. Wanya Morris got burnt and Pat got stripped. I mean, at least it wasn't an interception or a fumble or, a fumble by a skill player. So I thought, even though it was a turnover, I still felt like that was something that at least it wasn't on Pat or, it was on the tackle. And the tackles are bad, so it's just something we're going to have to live with. But I thought offensively, they moved the ball really well. I'm actually kind of encouraged by the way the offense played. I thought the offense actually played fairly well. I'm a little concerned that the defense starts off slow and then they kind of settle in once they figure out. It's almost like I'm not sure what the team's going to do, and then they wait till halftime, and then, okay, this is what we got to do. And I think in the playoffs against a team like Miami or Buffalo, you can't afford for your defense. If we're going to play this kind of football, the defense can't start off slow and give up 14 or 17 points in the first half and then expect this offense to keep pace. Not scoring in the red zone was a problem. I would have probably not kicked a couple of those field goals. I think I would have gone for it. Especially on the 4th and 4, and it was the one that got them to 16 points. I would have gone for it there. I think that's just me. The biggest issue I have with the game, and it's the one that we continue to talk about. I'm not even mad at MVS at this point. Like, I don't think that this is all on him. I think at what point can somebody in the media, and I know you guys have an etiquette you have to follow. I get it. Can somebody please ask Andy, whether it's Soren or DeLevo, can somebody please ask him, like, at what point does he have to be accountable for continuing to put this guy in the game that continues to hurt this team? The score looks so much different if he catches the first one, because he probably scores a touchdown. That's a touchdown. If he catches the deep one, he's fast enough. If he catches that, Pat hit him in stride. He's probably still running.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, the offense only scored 25 points and be disappointed because they kicked field goals. They should have had touchdowns, and their skill position players failed again. So why do we keep putting these guys in the game? They have to. Andy Reid has to take a page from Dig Vermeil. It's time to take the diapers off. The guy's not good enough. He shouldn't be on the field. Stop playing him.
Travis.
Other than that, I thought I'm excited. I'm actually have a little bit of hope for the wild card game, by the way. So you guys have a great one, and I'll talk to you later.
Travis, I appreciate it, man. And, yeah, I mean, MVS just deeply frustrating. I think it's cool to be a little encouraged by everything with the offense. I do also wonder if the slow start defensively, if that's going to be as big of a deal the second time you're seeing Josh Allen or Tua, as opposed to the first time you've ever gone up against Browning. Obviously, the Chiefs were looking tape on him, and that slower start, faster finish has been a pretty continuous theme for this defense, but certainly Bears continuing to watch. Next up, we got Jay. Jay, you're on 810. How you feeling?
Not that great, to be honest with you. Maybe first, Happy New Year's Eve.
Hey, to you
love
too.
the show, Josh.
Thank you.
And appreciate everything you do after the game.
Thank you.
Listen, I don't want to be the Grinch, but how is it possible? Winning the division is a big deal and everything, but look at who's in the division right now. The Chargers have been out of it since October. They had no quarterback. The Broncos are a hot mess and always and will be and have been this entire season. and the Raiders had somebody named O'Connell or O'Donnell start the last few games. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we went up against the beast of the AFC East or what is the AFC North. This should be the expectation in Kansas City when you've got the greatest quarterback to ever play the game talent-wise, period. So, but I'm happy we finally got the job done in Week 17. But let me ask you this, Josh. At what point does Andy look at MVS and say, and take the, I guess we'll call it the Bill Belichick approach, and say, hey, you know what? I can't play you anymore, buddy. You got to be benched. Are we just that thin at wide receiver now with Sky Moore's injuries and the, quote, wink, wink injury that Tony has to his hip and everything else? It just doesn't add up to me. He is missing catches that are ones that probably you and I could actually make. I don't know if we'd run very far after we caught the ball, but I think that one that he would have had a touchdown with, Mahomes just kind of floated it to him. It wasn't like he threw a missile. And I'll leave you with this. It's time to look ahead. I don't know about you, but next, what will probably be Sunday night in the Dolphins-Bills game, the winner will not face Kansas City. And I don't know about you. I'm rooting for the Buffalo Bills. I'd much rather see the Dolphins, who got absolutely smoked today by Baltimore, come into Arrowhead than the Buffalo Bills, who seem to kind of be figuring it out. Who are you rooting for in that game with the playoff ramifications as it relates to Kansas City? Love the show, and Happy New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year, Jay. Appreciate the call. I would also be with you on that, I think. I think I'd rather see Miami come to Arrowhead and go ahead and get the Tyreek Hill revenge game as opposed to doing all that again with Buffalo. I am a little more afraid of what Buffalo brings. But honestly, either way, it's going to be hard to pick the Chiefs in that game. I think I would rather it be Miami then coming off of back-to-back tough losses against fellow AFC contenders, being the Ravens this week, and then theoretically losing to the Bills next week. That would be a little bit of a sour note for them to pick up the playoffs on, and I think that would be better than the alternative of having Buffalo back in KC again. To your question about MVS, also Travis kind of asked along those lines. I don't know, man. I think that Andy Reid doesn't know what he needs to do. I think Matt Nagy doesn't know. I think Connor Embry sure doesn't know. I don't really think that any of you know. Like I don't think MVS knows. It is one of the most frustrating regressions I've ever seen. Because last year he was pretty one note and a little bit up and down at times, like it's until the Bengals game. It's not like he was some all-world receiver, but you didn't expect him to drop the football when he was being targeted. Everything this year has been bad. Just everything. Everything has been a mess. I don't know how you keep playing him. I haven't seen what the snap counts are for today. They certainly had a chance to make that change coming into this game. Presumably, they won't play their actual starting rotation next week, and then you can have your special new thing revealed for the playoffs, and maybe in the wild card round, maybe then it will just be a full diet of Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, and Richie James. I don't know who they want to be the other outside guy. And MVS is absolutely, for a functional offense, unplayable right now. No question. I think it's totally fair to say that Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, again, Toney being hurt right now, I think it's fair to say that Toney and Scantling would not be playing real snaps for any other team in football. And I also think it's safe to say, or at least reasonable to say, they're both two of the four best receivers on this team, at least in theory. MVS hasn't proven it in just as long as Toney hasn't. But like what you have seen them do at some point, even though it's almost all from last year, is at least a little more enticing than what you were seeing from like Sky Moore before he ended up on IR, a little more enticing than what you've seen from Justin Ross, who just isn't on the field and that, gets partially derailed from suspension and all of that. It's just a mess. And this is not me like telling you that they should be playing MVS or Tony. That group just is barren. I think McCole Hardman probably gets more work in the playoffs. I think he had a little bit of work today. I saw him out there a few times. Let him keep working back in practice next week, even if he's not playing, or let him be one of the receivers who does play a decent amount of snaps next week. Because at that point, just get him in game speed and let him run. Fine, that maybe there's something there. But it's a tough group when you're looking at Richie James or McCole Hardman to be your savior. I'm not telling you you're wrong at all to say that you can't play MVS. They got to have receivers that need to get covered. The thing is, at this point, leave MVS alone 40 yards downfield and tell me why you're afraid of him. It's really frustrating, and it's one of the worst stretches I've ever seen from an NFL wide receiver. Next up, we go to Rodney. Rodney, you're on 810. How you doing, Rodney?
Hey, Josh, happy New Year's Eve to you.
Thank you. You
to
too.
everyone. What I saw is it was disappointing. The game overall was great, but when coming from the receivers, I'm blaming Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. That's their choice. To me, the route that he is running is simple. People need to understand this is the NFL, the highest level of football in the world. Less than 1% of all football players in high school make it to this level. Yeah. There's no excuse. That's even coming from the coaches. My question is, why Justin Ross can't run the same routes that MVS is running? Yeah. Why has it got to be so difficult? It shouldn't be that difficult to me. And I mentioned it last time about them playing Kadarius Toney out of position. He needs to be on the outside, not in the slot. Yep. MVS does need to be on the bench and not on the field. Justin Ross can run those same exact routes. You see, Watson ran the same route. Yep. The same over. Yep. Why Ross cannot do that same thing? He did it against Minnesota and embarrassed them until he got suspended. Yep. And so, I mean, to me, I don't want to hit the excuse from Nagy is irrelevant. I know a lot of people is going to jump down Wanye Moore's throat. First of all, if anyone actually paid attention, this is the first time he went up against a speed rusher that's not named Max Crosby. Mm-hmm. They realized that Wanye Moore is too strong for a traditional defensive end or a power rusher. He can lock that down. We have to get somebody who's in a 5 tech or a wide 9, somewhere in between there, to go up against Wanye. And you have to do that. That's the only way you could beat him. But he slowly learned to get it there because he got it together in the second half. That 7 tech and wide 9 was not getting home. So that tells me he's getting better. So my thing about it is, Jawan Taylor, you were wasting my money. There was too many plays that you let the guy come scot-free on the outside and you're not even looking. Trey Smith do not need help when he got a guy locked up like a pit bull grip. Why are you looking to your left when you got a guy coming right down your butt? Come on, man. Come on now. This is the NFL. But I want to give my flowers. I know a lot of people got upset a while, still getting upset now about why Felix is not getting on the field. Have they see that defensive line? Only time Felix is getting on the field is Karlaftis getting off the field or Mike Dana. And you see none of near one of them two is getting off the field. So this is a year that he's sitting back and learning. He's going to have his time probably in the playoffs because they're going to just run it. But we had a defensive line that's going to have multiple guys with 10-plus sacks. Come on now. We haven't seen that since Kamba Hali and Justin Houston. So this defensive line, we came into the game second in sacks. Though it might not look like it, but yes, this defense was second in sacks. Could possibly be first now. But I want to give my flowers. We say the green light to Joshua Williams. Because the most tough-nosed, cutthroat coach we have on the coaching staff is Dave Merritt. Yep. He is cutthroat, and he is not afraid to say it. Joshua Williams balled and worked his way up because Amari Connor was coming for his spot. So he must have been working extremely hard to get his opportunity to get on the field. The pass interference was an old veteran move. Higgins had his hands on the inside of his shoulder pad, and he just held it there. So, of course, he's holding on. It looks like he's holding on to his hand. He just got hit. That's an old trick in the book. Every big wide receiver know that. But I know a lot of people were saying that the Chiefs need to get Higgins. Tony Romo just said it. Availability is the best ability. Higgins have a hard time staying healthy. Why should we give him all this money? He can't even get on the field. He's just like pretty much paying Kadarius Toney. So, to me, I feel like this Veach need to do the same thing he did to the offensive line, to the wide receiver room. If you're going to trade Chris Jones, get at least a first round for it. Use your 2 first-round picks to get 2 wide receivers, not just 1. You need 2. And I'm going to leave it off to the best saying I heard. I've been screaming all weekend. M-I-Z.
Z-O-U, Rodney. Hey, Happy New Year. I appreciate the call. I want to try to get through a few more before we hit to the presser. So I'm taking notes, and we'll break some of this more down a little bit later on. But next up, we got Gary. Gary, you're on 810. How you doing?
Not too bad. Just kind of blah, looking at next week, get through it. But everybody plays next week. Nobody sits because they haven't earned that. This team needs to get going, and they've shown they can't get going. Offensively, Wanye Morris, he got his butt kicked on that play. To be honest, he just needs a off season in the weight room with the strength and conditioning coaches, because I've seen NBA power forwards with better bodies than him. He's just too skinny for that position right now. The offense, though, they just can't get going, and when they do, this is the 2017 Chiefs offense. Great between the 20s, stall in the red zone. Harrison Butker is the team MVP right now. Defensively, I agree with everybody. They made Jake Browning look like Lamar Jackson in the first half, the way he was running around making plays, couldn't keep him in contain. Willie Gay looked so lost in the first half. I mean, I'm glad he's a free agent. I hope they let him walk, because he can't cover anything out there in the flat. He can't pick up anything. The tight ends were running wide open. The backs were having their way, but the outside linebackers and the safeties, though, against the tight ends have struggled so mightily. And that Bengals defense has been one of the worst defenses against tight ends. Our tight ends didn't do anything today. I think they had a combined 2 catches, but there was one point late in the first half, and I don't know if you'll explain this or not. There were 2 targets between Kelsey and Rice in the first half for about 19 yards. At that point in the first half, I was just scratching my head that those 2 guys had only had 2 combined targets. But looking ahead, though, I would rather see Miami in the first round, and I pray to God there's a cold front over Kansas City that week. Make them come north and play us, because I would rather see the quarterback stands in the pocket than the one that's going to move around, because those guys just scare me with this defense, because, like I said, the defensive ends don't do a good job of containing. And Willie Gay he spins in circles out there wherever he's at. But kudos to George Karlaftis in the fourth quarter coming alive, getting those 2 sacks. I think he played a tremendous quarter in that game. But, the offense, it is what it is at this point in the season. But congratulations to Jawan Taylor. No penalties today. I'll hang up and listen. Great show, Josh.
Gary, I appreciate it. We're going to kick it right out to Arrowhead to hear from Chiefs Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt.
Where we've won the West as well. I do think that adversity can be beneficial by the time you get to the playoffs, because the playoffs are never going to be easy. So I think it speaks to the character of the team, and that'll benefit us going forward.
Do you ever find yourself feeling frustrated along the way? I know it's got to be emotional to you with all the ups and downs. And how do you navigate that when you're watching and it doesn't go off to a fast start?
Yeah, well, when you've been cheering the Chiefs on for 50-plus years, there are a lot of roller coasters over the years. It's obviously been very positive for the last decade or so. Certainly you feel the frustration when things aren't going your way, but that's part of sports. That's part of the National Football League. There are a lot of good teams. Credit the Bengals today for coming out and playing a really good game and competing against us. And again, I'm just proud of our guys for overcoming the adversity and getting the win.
What does it mean, just looking back to hiring Andy? You guys were 7 behind the rest of the pack in division titles, and now you stand alone. Just in the prism of that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think it's a testament to Coach Reid and his staff, and he's going to go down as one of the greatest head coaches in the National Football League. We now have won the West 16 times, which is the tops among the AFC teams, and those are the 4 teams that go all the way back to 1960, and so great that we're number 1 in that category. And again, I'd give Andy all the credit for that.
We'll go 3 more. Matt.
You spoke to the adversity, and from the outside, this streak looks like it has been so easy, and so the expectations are so high. Was there a point in the season where maybe the adversity that this team was going to face, just maybe because of the youth and some of the changes, was going to be maybe more extreme than maybe was expected or that you've experienced in the past?
Yeah, I think in recent years we've come to expect that the path's going to be pretty easy to winning the AFC title, and it never is, right? And I find that personally I tend to forget how hard certain seasons have been. You sort of block out the tough parts of those seasons and only think about the victories and winning the AFC West and then getting that Lamar Hunt trophy. So there'll be a time to reflect on this season and look at the challenges, but I would say it's just part of the National Football League.
We don't get a chance to talk to you all the time, so I got to take time here to ask you about the stadium. Has anything changed on your guys' end? Are you guys still this is where you want to be? Anything happening there?
Yeah, nothing's changed from our perspective. We're still focused on Arrowhead. We believe it's one of the best stadiums in the National Football League, and we hope to make it our home for at least another 25 years.
Last one, you.
I was down at the Cotton Bowl, and a contemporary of your dad who served on the Cotton Bowl committee came up. He found us from Kansas City. He said every time they win something, it makes me think of how much Lamar would have enjoyed it. What would this run have meant to your dad?
Yeah. Well, nobody was a bigger Chiefs fan than my dad. That included the tough years as well as the good years. But he would have so enjoyed this past decade of Chiefs football. I wish that he was here to enjoy it, because he would love this. He would love it particularly for our fans. He was always about the fans, and he knows how much the organization means to them, and vice versa, how much they mean to us.
All right, thank you.
There's Chiefs Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt live from Arrowhead as the Chiefs lock up their 8th consecutive AFC West division title. We either keep hearing the pressers as we go here today, or we'll sneak in a quick timeout. If you're on the line right now, we'll take your calls before long as well. But just waiting for the festivities at Arrowhead to dictate to us what we will do next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. Here is running back Isaiah Pacheco.
Absolutely. You can just feel the intensity and the look in each other's eyes. Just give each other that look, and everybody's on time, and just you can tell we got to go, and we're trying to go get it.
Isaiah, take us through the last week. How were you feeling, and when did you know you were going to play today?
Last week was a little bit different. Concussion protocols had me 5 days out. Had step-by-step 5 steps. Saturday I got cleared. Was the last step, so I had 1 day of practice, which was Friday. So it's been a tough week for me, just installing, writing, detailing my notes, and make sure I'm ready to go on game day. So, like I said, taking my time and locking in on notes, and just leaning on my brothers and know that we need each other.
Isaiah, can you sometimes feel energy change around you after one of those runs or just one of those plays where you're still sort of surging through it?
I'm not really sure if I feel it. Just going out there and leaving it all on the field and bringing one another along. Just when I know my teammates there to pick me up, I know we're rolling.
Mid-season surgery is unique. Just how are you feeling when it comes to your shoulder and moving forward?
I'm feeling great. Great training staff we have here. I'm thankful to them, Julie and Glove, and everybody in there. Just taking care of me. Just making sure I'm able to go full speed, 100%. And 2 weeks surgery. It's a little bit difficult. You don't expect to play 2 weeks out of surgery, but me, my story was a little bit different. Nothing was really too much major serious, so I was able to compete. Just Coach Reid took care of me on that last week. I missed 2 games, so now I'm here and just taking it day by day and just believing in it.
Isaiah, this was your single game high, 160 yards in your career. So I'm not going into that, just how you got the 160 yards and how you could feel it was carrying the momentum.
Yeah, so throughout the whole week, just felt the details and just understanding the scheme, the job, and knowing that Coach has a high expectation for us. So going out there, knowing what you're doing at a high tempo, it will show for your game.
That's good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's Isaiah Pacheco back from. We hadn't heard from him since he punched a dude and got ejected, right? There's that, and then the shoulder surgery, and then he returned, and then the concussion, so he didn't talk after the game last week, and then today has an absolutely massive 18 carries for 130 yards, plus 7 catches for 35. A really big day by the young running back. We'll either go back out to Arrowhead for more pressers or sneak in the break as we go. Again, I'd like to take the phone calls that are on right now, but I know as soon as I click the button, somebody will be up there at the podium. So hopefully everyone's just been waiting patiently, celebratory gear in hand or on head or on torso, and ready to go with whatever comes next. So you are again listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. It's the Sports Radio 810 WHB postgame show. Yeah, I could have been a locker room report, Dylan. I guess you did offer me to do that, and I forgot. So here we go to commercial break. Let's go ahead and do that. You know what? Let's sneak in G real quick. G's been on hold for a second. G, go ahead real quick. What's on your mind?
What up, Josh? JG.
Hey, man, how's it going out there?
Quite a few things. Bryce, bald. Pacheco, bald. Humanahu, bald. Bucker, bald. Spag, bald. The thing I was most impressed about, it was nice to see that I wanted to see how the team reacted being behind, like, later, see how we'd react. I was very impressed. We kept our poise. We did what was necessary. Spag made the necessary adjustments. Shut them down. Coaching, incredible. MDS, it is what it is. That guy can't catch balls at a gay bar.
Hey, G, I appreciate it. Thanks. I was talking to Dylan. I'm not sure what he said there, but it didn't sound like what I wanted him to be saying. That's all right. We'll get one more call in here real quick. Get to Raymond. Raymond, go ahead and clear us out here, man. How's it going?
Hi, I used to be Crazy Ray on 610, by the way, but I really liked the game today, and I thought that Pacheco has a lot of heart. I thought that he would have gone all the way to a touchdown before someone else would have caught him, you know. It's the Andy Reid's heart of where it's at. My dad's mad because we traded Tyreek Hill, and I didn't think that anyone on this year's would be jumping up, catching the ball like Travis Kelce, you know. So you jump up and catch it, you know, act like who wants the ball more, you know what I mean, in that regard. You know, I'm talking about someone that jumps up and catches the ball and learns how to catches it to make the first down, you know. That we need more wide receivers because Tyreek, he used to, when Mahomes threw it long passes, we always caught him. And that's what it's about, you know. Mahomes, he's happy he gets to win, but he wants to be in the Super Bowl, but he wants to throw it long ways too, though, because you know you have the opportunity, and we had a lot of opportunities, but it goes off to Harrison Buckkicker, man. I love Harrison Buckkicker. He's a good kicker, and we're lucky to have him.
Indeed, Raymond, appreciate the call. And we'll go ahead and take our timeout here on the Sports Radio 810 WHB postgame show. When we come back, we'll keep hearing pressers live from Arrowhead, keep breaking down the action. We'll talk to Matt Derrick later on as well. Chiefs victorious, locking up their 8th consecutive AFC West.
to 10. Down the sideline, he's got a man open. Rice off to the races, and Rice is brought down at the 10-yard line.
We talked about him coming on, and we've seen Kansas City. They were going to simplify. They've gone back to a couple of old school concepts that teams have gotten kind of onto.
That was a big play, and a downfield shot like that feels just about like magic. That's our Magic Mahomes moment, brought to you by Champion Heating and Cooling. Keep your family warm this winter with their Champion Premium Furnace. Find your local Champion dealer at championhomecomfort.com. And don't forget to ask about their free 10-year parts and labor warranty. Always leading, never compromising, championhomecomfort.com. A big day from Rashee Rice, the 67-yarder, of course, the highlight, but 5 for 127 on the day, and a little more vertical, a couple of instances of that. So seeing his ability continue to grow as he grows as a player, his usage increases, and all of that, all good news for the Chiefs offense. We'll head back out to Arrowhead here for Chris Jones appears to be moseying up to the podium. Here's the CEO of Sac Nation.
Goals every year. Beginning of the year, and I think the most important goal is to win the AFC West. Then you can build off of that into the year. So I think this is a huge milestone for the organization. We're going to continue to build off of this. As Pat said, we're going to try to stay consistent with this.
Chris, does it need a little more coming harder as it sort of did this year? I mean, does it feel like more of an accomplishment from some ups and downs you guys had?
I think it's anytime you're able to win a division, when we got so many good competitive teams in our division, the Raiders, who we lost to last week, the Denver Broncos, who we took an L to this year. We got so many competitive groups in this division to be able to win it 8 times consecutive. It shows you about the leadership we have in this building, the coaches, and the individuals that we have in this team.
And is that kind of feeling of that achievement, does that, you think, do something for you guys just mentally going forward? I mean, I feel like, okay, we got a little reset going from this.
Yeah, I think you get momentum anytime you get a win and beat a tough team. Cincinnati Bengals, they've been on a roll. I think their quarterback, he leads the league in the most passing percentage as a player for the first 5 games. So he's been on the road. That team's been on the road for us to beat a high-quality team, a good quality team, actually, at that. It's a lot of momentum coming off of that.
Chris, no points in the second half. What did you do adjustment from halftime in the second half or something?
I think it's mainly stopping the run. It came out early in the first half. Ran the ball, play action pass, opening up with the tight end, play action pass. Run the ball again. They got the running back wide open in the red zone. I think once we honed in on that, eliminate the big play runs, and we got after it.
Hey, Chris, you take us through the sequence of 4 sacks and 5 snaps. You had one of them.
Oh, I was tired. It was tough, man. I think guys seen the opportunity to seize the moment. George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu. We got Jay Reid, who got 2 of them. I don't like that. I'm not for a DB getting sacks, but it was all good. I think we just got after it. We knew it was an opportunity to close the game, close game at that. And I think we did what we were supposed to do.
On that 4th down, on their first drive in the 3rd quarter, it looked like Brown maybe checked to a run play and Willie stopped it for a 3-yard loss. I mean, how significant was that in terms of kind of turning the momentum, giving the offense a chance to go down and get that field goal and kind of get their legs on this?
I think that was a huge momentum shift. We ran goal line out there, and the play earlier, they ran it in with the running back. So we went goal line this drive, and they seen how many guys we had in. They checked it to the downhill run. Willie knocked it back. We was able to get off the field, and the offense went and scored. I think that was the shift of the game right there.
Hey, Chris, Jamar had the very public comments. How do you think your guys responded to those?
We don't comment. We just play, man. You know, we don't really talk. We don't engage with the back and forth. They do this every year. And, you know, last year, playoff, this year, regular season. I mean, but kudos to Snead. Every top receiver that's came in this, we played against, Snead have held his own. I don't know how many yards Jamar Chase had, but I can guarantee you, how many?
41.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just saying, and Snead, you know, yeah.
There was a little moment first half they caught on the cameras, a little frustration on the sidelines. Like you had to talk to Willie, there was a little drawing back and forth. Were you guys a little bit frustrated early?
No, man. We're just so competitive, and with the competitiveness going on, a lot of guys, it can look bad, but it's not as bad as it seems, right? I think Willie, he's a fierce competitor, and sometimes his emotions get in the way, and sometimes you just got to bring him back in and let him know, we still got your back. We still got your back.
I asked Patrick the same question, but as far as, week 18, it doesn't look like it's going to have a huge impact on your seeding. Is there the benefit of getting some rest to you, or you just look at 9.5 sacks and say, hey, I want 10?
I want to play, okay? I want to play. But I understand the importance. Usually, for the last few years, we've had a bye week. And with the new CBA, they kind of changed this year. So if Coach Reid decides to rest us, I'll more than likely take the rest. I mean, I can use a week off. I feel a few nicks and bruises, and I'm quite sure our team can use it. I don't think our seeding changed whether we win or not, right? So, yeah, if Coach Reid let us get this week off, that'll be remarkable. Happy New Year's, guys.
There's Chris Jones live from Arrowhead, and a little bit of two minds in terms of if he'd like to be working next weekend or not, because they could take that week off and it wouldn't change anything. They're the 3 seed. The only thing is stuff could move around them, but it doesn't change it if the Chiefs win or lose to Easton Stick's version of the Chargers. And sometimes, the team, even playing backups like that, it doesn't do the Chargers any good to win that game either. So, but it would make a lot of sense to go ahead and give some rest to some very well-worked players who could use the week off. But Chris Jones could use an extra half sack. One player who'll definitely be playing next week, even though he got plenty of work today. Here's Harrison Butker.
Probably the last one. It's always tough when you make a field goal, you're excited about it, and then it's a quick turnaround and you're up again. And I do have a routine I like to go through. So sometimes it's shorter than I would like it. In that last kick, you have to get ready really fast. But also going that direction was pretty difficult. The other direction was a lot easier. So those last 2 were probably the hardest kicks.
Have you ever outscored another team by yourself?
I don't know. I've had 5 field goals before. 6 was the first time. But yeah, it might be the first time.
Not even in college, high school?
College, we ran the triple option, so not a lot of field goals.
We saw you bang a couple of 60-yarders in warm-ups. Did it change much when you tried that 50-foot?
We made a 63 in warm-up. I hit a 57 maybe off the crossbar in warm-up, and I didn't really swing that hard. So, for the 54-yarder, I knew I don't have to swing too hard and should be able to make it. Again, the wind was going in that direction, so as long as it was on target, it was going to have the distance.
What goes into the middle and physical approach of having to do more field goals than you're normally used to?
Going into any game, I say, okay, there's going to be 10 possessions and there's going to be an extra point or field goal every possession. So I get my mind ready for a lot of kicks, whether, you get that many kicks or not. But you just got to stay ready and stay locked in. I know it's easy, or it's been easy for me in the past. You make a couple field goals and you just relax, like, oh, I've had a good game. I probably won't get any more. But I thought I did a good job this game, just staying locked in, focused for any opportunity that came.
You've been perfect for 13 weeks and then missed New England, missed on Christmas Day. Did your confidence get shaken at all? And did you, how good does it feel to get 6 today and kind of exercise those games?
Yeah, it felt great. You make 13 in a row and you feel on top of the world. You feel like you're in a great rhythm, and then you miss a makeable, easy kick in New England and then another makeable kick. I'm sure you can see with my emotions that kick I missed last week against Vegas. Those are just gimme kicks that unfortunately, you miss, but I really pray for God's will to be done on every kick. So sometimes when those happen, just, all right, God, you wanted me to miss that for some reason. And then even today, especially those last 2, I don't know how those went in, but they did. And, I worked very hard, but when you get to that opportunity, when you're in front of, 80,000 fans, you're playing in front of a big national, international audience, you go out there and the kick happens in 1.3 seconds. It just happens so fast. And I'm grateful for the successes and also grateful for the misses and the losses. But, I'm just, thankful to be in this position and for the kicks to be going through it. I mean, to make 6 kicks, it's just amazing. Not me, God take care of it.
Kind of take us through the experience that you had at Arrowhead Stadium. I was watching during pregame up in the press box. It looks like the wind's blowing the other way. And you're telling me you're kicking it better that direction. How much time does it take you to get the stadium and understand how it's going to work?
I don't know if every stadium is like this, but normally whatever direction the wind's blowing, when you're inside the stadium, it's going to be the opposite. So if it's a north wind, then in the stadium it's probably going to be a south wind. So I have an app that I can look at the wind just mainly to see how intense the wind is, how big are the gusts. But when you go out there, you figure out the direction it's going. I really don't look at those flags that are on the top of the stadium. I just look at the flags that are on the field goal post. But that Vegas game, it's tough because it's wet, and the flags on top of the field goal posts are stuck to the uprights, and it was like that for the Eagles game as well. So I mean, it's a little difficult to read the wind when you don't have those flags to look at. But the biggest thing I also look at with that wind app is if the wind's consistent the whole time, because if you're going to have a certain wind for warm-up, maybe north wind, and then it switches to an east wind during first half and then a west wind during second half, you definitely need to know that because, sometimes you're on the sideline for a whole quarter and a half and then you go out there, and if the wind's different than what you expected, you don't really want to have those emotions right before a kick. You want to know what your plan is going into it.
Harrison, it's not every game that coach and the guys celebrate the kicker in the locker room the way they did. Just what does it do for you, knowing it is a team sport?
It feels great. I don't have, as a kicker, you're only given as many opportunities as the team provides, and hopefully you're ready for those. James and Tommy have been doing a great job. We've been grinding in practice and throughout the season, and when we do have our numbers called, we need to show up and do our job. And when you have 6 field goals, it's hard not to see like that was an important part of the game and put points on the board. But it's definitely a team effort with great snaps, great holds, great blocking, and God helping those footballs go to the uprights.
Let's finish up with one more, so go ahead.
Harrison, just given the adversity of recent weeks, what did it mean to walk in that locker room and be able to exhale a little bit and celebrate the first goal you guys haven't been able to see?
Yeah, it felt great. We've faced a lot of adversity, more losses this season than we have in the past. I think this is probably the most losses we've had since maybe 2017 or so. And so in the past, we've been rolling, winning a lot of games. But I think adversity is super important. I don't know if it was 2020. I felt like we didn't have a lot of adversity, maybe not as much as like that 2019 team. But I just think it's very important to know how do we handle losing. How do we respond when we're down? And obviously, as a kicker, I'm kind of just seeing it from the sideline, seeing how the guys compete in practice and attack the game. For me, I'm trying to be as much as a robot as I can because my competition's the wind and the surface. It's not really my competition, and I try not to have as many of those ups and downs. It's really those internal ups and downs. I can control if I make or miss it based on technique or my plan. But it's been really cool to watch the team come together. I mean, how they approach a week after a loss like last week, and obviously to have whatever song they were playing at the end when all the guys were dancing on the sideline and it was a long third or fourth down, whatever that was, and all of Arrowhead was screaming and yelling. That's amazing. Those are memories you're always going to have. Those are the good memories that we are so accustomed to, and you can't ever take winning for granted. And getting a division win 8 years in a row, 7 years for myself is amazing.
When you have milestone games like this, is there a memory back when you were at Westminster, they pulled you off the soccer team, and is there a sign from God that told you that something like this could be?
I didn't start kicking, like you said, till the spring of my sophomore year. As a kicker, how many other kickers are at a school with you? There might be one other kicker. So you don't really know like how good you are, and even when you play another team, they might only have one kicker. It's hard to gauge. And I went to a kicking camp and that had hundreds of people, and I got ranked really high. But still, even when you're ranked high, you turn on the television, you see D1 kickers and NFL kickers, and they're hitting the ball super high, and it looks perfect, and you just think, man, I could never do that. Those guys are just in another realm. And even throughout college, I never thought I'd be an NFL kicker. It wasn't until my senior year I did decent, and I got an NFL Combine invite, which really surprised me. And I did all right at the Combine, but I feel like I've always, I don't know if I sell myself short, but even now being in the NFL, I look at guys like McPherson. I just think, wow, what a beautiful ball that he can kick, and he's such a great kicker. And I watch around the league. There's just so many talented people, and like I was talking about God, so many times I go out there, I'm like, I should not be out here. I don't know how this ball is going through. I don't know how I'm making kicks, but it's a blessing. And I normally get emotional, normally the national anthem, just to be on that stage. Who would have ever thought. I never thought I would be in that situation, but God's got me there, and I'm enjoying it for however long he's got me here.
I know you don't pay a ton of attention to things like this, but you go on 6 for 6 tonight. Crew in Atlanta missed a couple of kicks today, so you were back to number 2 as the second most accurate field goal kicker all time. That's exactly where you were before the injury last year. Does it kind of feel like you're full circle past that now, and you kind of resumed everything that you were right before that?
Yeah, I try not to focus on those stats that much, but it is a big stat, and that's probably how you gauge how good kickers are. What is their career field goal percentage? I didn't know Kuhn missed. I didn't know I'm second now, but I feel healthy. I feel back to my old self. I mean, last year was tough. You feel like an old man. Like I'm only 27 and I'm out here just not feeling like myself at all. So it's great to kind of have a year that I feel like reflects who I am as a kicker, in my entirety. But when you play, you got to work through injuries, and everybody in their career has injuries. And I'm sure the greats that are in the Hall of Fame, those are athletes that know how to handle and move through injuries. We're all going to have them. So I thought I did a decent job last year, but it's nice to have a year that feels like, the years I've had in the past.
I'm just curious. Do you have a wind direction that you prefer and a wind direction that you really don't like in this stadium?
It's not necessarily unique to this stadium, but I would say I have a hook on my ball. So a left to right wind is great. I think that straightens out the ball. And then obviously you want wind at your back and not wind in your face. But as a punter, I think some punters would maybe say they like a slight wind in their face because it actually adds a little bit more hang time to their punts. But if I'm not indoors, I prefer a wind at the back, and then if there's any directional wind, left to right. But you have some kickers that their miss is a slice, and they prefer a right to left wind and not a left to right wind. All right, thank you.
There's Harrison Butker live here with us on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll take a timeout and come back and hear from Andy Reid as the Chiefs have locked up their 8th consecutive AFC West. That, from Harrison Butker, concludes our locker room report presented by Twin Peaks.
The Chiefs Locker Room Report is brought to you by Twin Peaks. No one does football like Twin Peaks. Whatever your preference, they have everything from tequila cocktails and an extensive bourbon category to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice balls. Local craft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails round out an adventurous drink menu, second to none. And don't forget about their 29-degree man-sized drafts at Twin Peaks.
Now we'll take our time out here, come back and hear from the head coach as the Chiefs are victorious again, locking up the AFC West and defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 25-17.
splits. He's in a slot to the right side. There's Mahomes. Fires it. Touchdown, Kansas City. Pacheco on the receiving end. Wow.
Not only was that the only touchdown of the day for the Kansas City Chiefs, it is our sweet play of the game brought to you by Andy's Frozen Custard. Santa Brownie Jackhammers and Sundays are back at Andy's Frozen Custard. Each Santa Brownie Jackhammer is a holiday miracle of vanilla frozen custard, chocolate brownies, and hot fudge down the middle. Now at Andy's Frozen Custard. We'll go from Andy's to Andy as Chiefs head coach Andy Reid spoke to the media following the game. Time for us to hear from the head coach as he celebrates the Chiefs' 8th consecutive AFC West division title. As always, the head coach's press conference is brought to you by Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC and Olathe Kia. Get a worry-free money-back guarantee on new vehicles when you buy from Brogdon. Visit BrogdonAutomotive.com. Also brought to you by Westlake Commercial, a division of Westlake Ace Hardware, your business-to-business supply partner. Their commercial team, dedicated business-to-business website, credit terms, and convenience store locations make it easy. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware store or westlakehardware.com/commercial today. We start from the top with Andy Reid, per usual, to hear the head coach's opening statement and injury report after the Chiefs' victory over the Bengals.
All right. Listen, what a game. And our fans were unbelievable, loud. They started the New Year's early, I think. But it was impressive. A great win to get against a good football team. Zach did a heck of a job with that team. And they were battling through some injuries early, but you saw their quarterback was a good player. And for a young guy to be able to step in for a great player like that and do what he did was impressive. I was very proud of our coaches, the offense and defensive coaches, special teams. Everybody contributed in this thing, which I think was great. And as you saw, nobody gave up hope. It wasn't the smoothest early, but the guys battled through. And they supported each other. So that's positive. Then there were a bunch of individual things. You got to start with Bucker. 6 field goals. 6 field goals. That was incredible. These just weren't little chip shots. These were real field goals. So, and then Willie had a huge play in there, which was great to see. Rice with a big catch. The O-line and D-line just came with a certain attitude and took charge there. D-line had 6 sacks, I think. Excuse me, had 6 sacks, which was, or 7, whatever it was. It was a lot of sacks. Mixed in there, they did great. Richie James with the punt return did a heck of a job with that. So, listen, I can keep going through guys there. All in all, it was a good game to get. It's great to have the guys have a championship with the AFC West. So I mean that's a positive thing. I know how they are. They're not going to rest on that. But it is exciting for them to get a taste, especially the new guys that haven't had that experience. So again, the whole situation.
Okay, there's the open there from Andy Reid, shouting out Harrison Butker, of course. Again, an absolutely ridiculous night from him, being the man who single-handedly outscored the Bengals. It may have happened before he got asked about that earlier, but 6 for 6, with the longest being the 54-yarder plus his extra point, a 19-point day for Harrison Butker. That is absolutely ridiculous, and the Chiefs get the win and survive all the way to the end of another AFC West victory. We'll get to the next one here in a second from Andy Reid as he kind of goes back through a couple of things about the boost that Isaiah Pacheco's return gave and some other things going on. But first, he opens up being asked if there's a different level of satisfaction winning the division under these circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's a positive, right? I mean, everybody's been so positive through it and supporting each other. I mean, you've seen it on the sidelines, guys support each other, the want to by Chris Jones, by Patrick, by Kels. I mean, and then the guys follow them. When they bring that energy like they do every week, I mean, guys believe that it's going to get changed, and so it allows me to stand up here and tell you that we're about that close, and every week, and so it's just a matter of getting some things figured out, and this is what happens. They keep pounding, and it's great.
What kind of boost did Isaiah Pacheco have?
Yeah, I should have mentioned Isaiah. A lot of energy. I look at Pacheco, I look at Snead. These guys kind of came off the bed to play, and they did a heck of a job with it. Pacheco brought great energy, ran hard, aggressive, wanted it more, and we had some young backups behind them. Had a chance to get in the game too, so that was good.
One of the things you talked about last week, the mechanics worked all that great, that few mistakes. That came out, the script worked really nicely. You got down the field to score. That's satisfying with that keep going on that right foot throw.
It's always good to start fast. That's a positive. You want to do that every week. So, but the guys, they executed well. And that's the most important thing right now. This time of the year, that's the most important thing. Kind of iron some things out there and make sure that we come out. Like I said, our coordinators, Spags and Eggs, had great game plans. They tapered it to the guys, and then that was the results there.
Yeah, and again, mentioning there being asked about the guys coming out of the bed basically to play this game, being Pacheco after the week of the concussion protocol, and again, remember he got hurt on Christmas. That's a Monday. He said earlier that he cleared the concussion protocol on Saturday, but he was in the concussion protocol. And L'Jarius Sneed wasn't working all week, and it's a tough thing to be absent from practice for a full week like that. And to still get the nod from Andy Reid, that shows both a trust in L'Jarius Sneed to be ready mentally and physically for that, and also just a testament to everything that L'Jarius Sneed has provided. He was great in this game, and Jamar Chase has already kind of tried to pivot the post-game trash talk, and we'll see where that lands with everybody, but a great game from both Sneed and Pacheco, two guys who, on Thursday, I think, would have been reasonable to project, even Friday, reasonable to project that neither of them would play. I was glad to see Pacheco out there getting some work on Friday, but both of them legitimately kind of game-time decisions, it seemed. I guess once Pacheco cleared, it was pretty obvious he was going to play, but Sneed seemed like a legit game-time decision, and both of them got out there and played some really excellent football. Next, from Andy Reid, talking about the struggles in the red zone and the Rashee Rice deep shot. That's sort of on the back half here. But first, Andy Reid asked about how it felt to get some deep passes really cooking here for this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, that's positive. You want to do that. It cuts down on those long drives, right? So you get a couple positive shots down the field. That's big. Rice had one. Watson had one. Those are. Pacheco had the runs, so those are all, that's all good stuff.
Yeah. Andy, understand this is all new right now, but looks like next week's game is going to be kind of meaningless. I just kind of want to get your initial thoughts on how you might handle next week's game in terms of the back and also some of the other guys.
I haven't got there yet. You were right.
Andy, just go through Chiefs' big play here, long stage.
Yeah, so I had the press coverage, single safety middle league, won that battle, had laid it out there beautifully. She would have got it. He's a score though, right? He did a great job with it though. That was strong. Physically strong move that he made. Impressive.
Congratulations on the great title for you all. Knowing that the defense has been superb, it's deadly when the offense has been performing the last couple of weeks. Harrison Bucket also is little. You still have concerned about not being able to punch the ball in, into the end zone, show where you're not putting the defense in the best situation.
Yeah, listen, I mean that happens, and we'll work through all that. I'm not worried about that right now.
Big thing there is, I think it was Teicher's question about, hey, next week, what's the plan? He's not there yet because, they don't. I'm sure they put a little bit of thought into that at some point earlier this week, but now Chris Jones needs half a sack to get his last sort of remaining incentive that he can reasonably reach, and Travis Kelce needs 16 yards, I think it was, 12, 16, 14, 18, I don't know. It's an even number, less than 20, where he needs to get a few more yards, like one or two more catches, and I think he breaks the 1,000-yard mark. But he hasn't gotten there yet and needs one more game to get that done. Last one here from Andy Reid, asked about the momentum going into the playoffs.
Listen, the guys are excited. That's, you don't want to, I don't need to say much. They understand. Like I said, I've got leaders that have been through this before, and they enjoyed it. But at the same time, they don't want more. But they were excited to answer. But I didn't need to say no more.
Last one, Coach, you talked about kind of small leaders in the day today. Talking about we're definitely salty there in the second quarter, but you guys did a pretty good job of keeping composure, especially in the second half. How important was that for you guys to do that part?
Now listen, I think these two teams like to play each other and compete, and that's what I saw. And there's got to be some chippy things that go on. I mean, that's just part of the nature of the game. But it was great for the fans to watch. It was great. The coach just stand on the sideline and watch. It's a great competition, and you want to make sure that you don't do anything stupid. So you just want to, where you get flagged on it. But that's but at the same time, things are going to happen. The emotional game.
Yeah, and that last question there from Todd Lebo about keeping their composure over the course of this game. I mean, again, as the updated tweets roll through of L'Jarius Sneed in the locker room and Jamar Chase in the locker room, and this is a game where I think both sides, I think Andy Reid's right. These teams don't like each other, but they do like playing each other. And I like it when these two teams play because this is a real rivalry that has some real juice here in the AFC. Obviously, the Bengals without Joe Burrow doing it all shorthanded, but the Chiefs victorious today, and the Bengals are on the wrong side as their season essentially, are they officially eliminated now? I'm not sure. The AFC in that last wild card spot might be up in the air, but essentially the Bengals season may be ending in Arrowhead once again tonight as the Chiefs lock up the AFC West and the 3 seed. We know that they'll be the 3 seed. We don't know who they'll play. Following up on something from earlier, I don't have all the things in front of me now, so forgive me if I'm ever so slightly off, but if the Jaguars beat the Titans next week in a game that they need to lock up the AFC South, and then if the Steelers beat a Ravens team that will have nothing to play for, they've locked up the 1 seed. If those two teams both win, both with the teams that have more to play for, being the Jags and the Steelers, then presumably Sunday Night Football between the Bills and the Dolphins. If the Bills win that game, they'd be the 2 seed. If they lose that game, they would miss the playoffs. I'm guessing that's all shaking out to where the Jags win the division, and then I think the Texans and Steelers would be your wild card teams if the Bills were to lose, or I guess it would be 2 of your wild card teams, along with the Browns, because they've already locked theirs up. Again, that's all just some tweets I've seen throughout the day today and kind of back of the napkin math. But if the Dolphins win and you are all of a sudden getting one of those other teams coming to Arrowhead for the wild card round, that sounds wonderful to me. The Browns, and I guess, would be going to whoever the 4 seed is. So the Chiefs could get a good matchup there. We'll have plenty of time to break down potential playoff matchups as the rest of the week rolls on, and we'll bring you the conclusion of Sunday Night Football later on this evening as well. It doesn't affect the Chiefs on the NFC side, Packers and Vikings, but a lot still coming down to the wire in Week 18. Mercifully, though, the Chiefs spot in the AFC West not amongst those. They're the 3 seed, and for the 8th consecutive year, they're the champions of the AFC West. We'll take time out. When we come back, we may hear from Patrick Mahomes. We may go ahead and wrap up a few more things and get some details ironed out as we roll on here tonight. It's the Sports Radio 810 WHB Postgame Show. Joshua Brisco, Dylan Michaels, and Covell Hudson with you, rolling on here on this New Year's Eve.
Bengals are denied. What a job by Willie Gay, running right through the middle. And this Chiefs defense playing outstanding now.
The defense in the second half was fantastic, and that right there is our defensive play of the game, brought to you by Slagle Fence. Slagle Fence, as Kansas City's preferred fence company, has been serving the KC metro areas for over a decade, offering security and style. Call 816-863-6159 or go to slaglefence.com for your free estimate. I don't think the Slagle Fence folks need the first half to kind of warm up like the Chiefs defense does, but I digress. The defense truly excellent, especially in that second half today, completely shutting out the Cincinnati Bengals. And yeah, those 17 points in the first half gave you some reason to worry, but ultimately, as we have seen time and time again from the Steve Spagnuolo defense, figuring out what the offense is throwing at you and then bringing your haymakers in the second, that is a legitimate pattern at this point, I believe. And a caller earlier mentioned, like, hey, how's that going to work in the playoffs? That's a totally fair question, but I think they will have more ammo to prepare with if they are prepping for the Bengals or the Bills or the Dolphins as two AFC foes they've already faced once this year. Have a lot of tape on what those teams have done recently, a lot of tape on what they did against the Chiefs themselves, and then kind of trying to predict some of those wrinkles. Even then, look, I mean, if the Bengals don't get a super short field, it's one less test that the Chiefs defense would have had to have passed there, and all of a sudden, if you give up 10 points in the first half, or I mean, honestly, even the 13 or 17 they gave up today. If you have a 10, 13, 14 point first half, you hope your offense has done enough to keep you head above water at that point. And then in the second, you fine-tune what you can do. And again, those counter punches from the Chiefs have been just fantastic. But we'll go back to the offensive side to hear from QB1 and to hear what Patrick Mahomes had to say about the offense, as it took some time to get things going, and they never really got it done at a very efficient clip in the red zone. But 25 points altogether, with 19 of those coming off the foot of Harrison Butker. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes as his press conference is brought to you by Kansas City Acura dealers. As our hometown team in red marches through another epic year, visit your Kansas City area Acura dealers to score jaw-dropping deals on new and pre-owned Acura models. Plus, get overpaid for your trade. Shop your Kansas City area Acura dealers. We'll start from the top here with number 15, opening up with the question if there's a little bit of a different satisfaction winning the division this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely special. I mean, it always is, though. I mean, it really is always is. It's cool to win the AFC West, but obviously dealing with some adverse situations over these last few weeks, and for guys to respond against a good football team and find a way to win, even when the game wasn't going in our way at the beginning of it, it was special. I told the guys celebrate it, enjoy it. But our goal is obviously to continue to win, so we have to continue to build off this momentum and get ready for the playoffs.
It doesn't solve everything, I assume, but does it give you sort of a tangible feeling of like another accomplishment or reset that helps you gain some momentum?
Yeah, I thought we did a lot of great things today. Offensively, I thought we did a good job of just letting the game come to us, not trying to force it, not trying to do too much. Obviously, we had the one fumble in the first half, but other than that, I thought guys did a great job. And we got to continue to get better in the red zone, but, I mean, Harrison Butker, he saved us, man. He knocked through, I think, 6 field goals, and when you have a defense like that shutting the door, man, I mean, that's how you got to win football games.
The performances of Rasheed and Isaiah, both over 100 yards, receiving and rushing. Just talk to those performances today, how they helped you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's guys stepping up and making plays happen. I mean, I thought the offensive line did a tremendous job in the run game, and then obviously Isaiah, when he gets through there, man, he's gone. And so he did a great job. Rasheed made a lot of big plays, especially in the second half. And that's what we're going to need when they have that much attention on Travis. For guys like that, they step up and make plays happen. And like I said, I thought guys just continue with it. They didn't, whenever stuff wasn't going our way, they didn't get down. They just continued with the process, and we were able to find a way to get a win.
They get the win, and they get the division. And there again, you get some love for Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. What about the deep shot to Rashee Rice? How did that feel out of his hand, and what did Mahomes see from Rashee Rice on that play?
Yeah, I think they busted a coverage. I think they were trying to get to 2, and they ended up having 2 guys playing on the same side as far as the safety in the corner. And so I was looking that way to think it possible like a hole shot, and then it just opened wide open. And I thought Rasheed did a great job of catching it and getting vertical. I told him I'm gonna teach him how to get those knees up, man. He's gonna get in the end zone next time. But he did a great job, man. And I thought. We had a couple other opportunities, and we try to take those shots today and back the defense off, and once you do that, it helps out with all the underneath stuff.
Patrick, you've been in this spot every year since you've been here. Now looking forward for a second, does it feel any different than any other year?
I mean, obviously the season hasn't been. We're not winning this in week 12 or week 13 like we have before. I mean, we had to battle through adversity and find a way to win this game, but it's not over. I mean, we have to continue to get better and better. We understand that. Kind of the motto of this season at the end of it's been a good game and a bad game. So how can we sustain and get stuff going and continue to build off this momentum and get that momentum going into the playoffs? And now, like I said, now you're in the playoffs. It's one game, single elimination, and I think we can go out there and compete with anybody.
Patrick, Rasheed mentioned to me just some different options he had on that deep ball, but noticing that coverage, just wondering what you think about his instincts to spot that before the snap, and then at what point do you know that is where he's going?
Yeah, no, he definitely did. He did a great job recognizing coverage and converting the route and getting down the field. He does a great job of that. I mean, for the most part, I mean, he's pretty correct on reading coverages and not making the same mistake twice. And we ran a play early in the game. The game before, he ran in, and I missed him, and I was talking to him about it. And then we ran another play where he caught it and got vertical and kind of towards the red zone. It was the exact same play. And he did a great job of recognizing the coverage and learning from the previous week. And that's just kind of how he's been all year long. And I think that's why you see him continue to get better and better as the season goes.
That's interesting there, and Rashee Rice mentioning that he had options on what that route was supposed to be, and Mahomes saying more often than not, Rice is on the right side there. Obviously good to hear, good to see, and in that case, it results in a bomb that probably should have been a touchdown, and maybe that's something, with him, again, getting those knees up and actually just turning straight up that sideline. should have turned into 7 there, and so the Chiefs only get 6. But that play was huge, and it felt a little bit to me like a glimpse of things to come. Not that that's going to be where Rashee Rice makes most of his money, but to be able to do that in addition to all the horizontal stuff, in addition to all of the screen games and the dump-offs, and even the shorter vertical stuff, which we saw him have some success on earlier in that game as well. All good when the ball is in Rashee Rice's hands. Next here we go to Mahomes talking about hitting those big plays, as the Chiefs did a little more today. That feels a little bit like the old days.
Yeah, I think guys just did a great job of attacking the defense. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's me trusting those guys to go out there and make plays happen, and I put it out there, and guys made a lot of plays happen. So, I mean, that's just going to continue to build trust that I can go and do that, and I think it'll help open Travis up because there's so much attention on him in the middle of the field, and I think if we can show that we can go over the top and hit these deep passes, it'll open up him, and then we can kind of battle off that throughout the rest of the year.
Patrick, there was a report that you guys maybe simplified, kind of went back to
We just put guys out there and said, we're going to run the plays that we know. We're going to let y'all go out there and play fast. And then no thinking, let's just be us. And I think that helped guys play more free today. And then whenever stuff went wrong, we could bounce back quickly. It wasn't like we were like trying to fix it and figure out a different way to do this. It was, hey, we know these plays, we run these plays, and let's let the guys go out there and play fast and use their talent. I thought they did a great job of it.
Patrick, nothing against any of your other backs, but is there just a different energy when Pacheco was in the game?
I think he's a different energy than any other player on the entire team, man. I mean, the way he runs the football, the energy that he comes with, I don't think I've seen. There's like a small number of people that have that much intensity, and when they're running the football, you got like Marshawn Lynch, you got like Marion Barber, for all my old Cowboys days. I mean, it's that to be able to run that hard all the time and have that much energy, it's a special type of player, and hopefully we'll be able to get Clyde back this next week, and I thought he's playing really good football as well, and so we can let those guys go out there and be them.
Great stuff all the way through there from Mahomes on the big plays and the trust and the things that they have not been able to do this year, largely with MVS. Again, him talking about the importance of being able to do that and make defenses respect it. Hey, just do it with Rashee Rice. Stop doing it with the receivers who do not deserve that trust at this point, and let Rashee Rice be that guy. Cool, fine, happy with that. And then, again, I think generally the idea of like, oh, they're really cutting down the offense in a big way. I think that's been a little bit overblown, perhaps. Mahomes kind of echoes that there, and then just everything about Isaiah Pacheco is always great to hear. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes' press conference. One more chunk from it here before we'll take a timeout of our own. Here, Mahomes is asked if there might be a benefit to resting before the playoffs now that the Chiefs are locked into the 3 seed.
I didn't know that, but I kind of just let Coach Reid make all those decisions, and then I roll. So if he wants us to get out there and kind of build off this momentum that we have, I'll be ready to go. And if he wants to give us some rest, then I'll get that rest, prepare for whoever we're going to play, and be ready to go in the playoffs.
Last 2. You mentioned teaching Rashee to get his knees up. He has some separation on the DB. Is he faster than you notice sometimes?
No, he's fast. I think people don't understand that because we haven't been able to utilize him downfield as much as we wanted to. But he definitely is fast. He's explosive. I told him he's in Dallas in the offseason. He's going to work out with me. I'm going to teach him how to get the knees up so he can build as he goes. He's very explosive in those first, like through a 40. But if we're going to get 80-yard touchdowns, man, we got to get those knees up and get down the field.
Last one, man.
Patrick, much of this season has been about the consistency of the defense. I just wonder from your perspective, how does the defense sort of motivate and inspire you when things aren't necessarily going as smooth on offense as perhaps you would hope?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I thought I let the defense down last week. I mean, they played their tail off, and I think everybody knows that. But the 2 turnovers that were 14 points. I mean, that changed the entire game, obviously. But I thought it just let the defense down. And so this week, I tried to do a great job. Obviously, we had the fumble. I tried to do a great job of just when it wasn't there deep, get it to underneath guys, try to get the first downs. If not, we can punt, man. Like I know it's not how I've always rolled, but we can punt. The defense get us the ball back, and we're going to find ways to win football games. And so. I think if we execute in the red zone, we can put up more points than we did today. But other than that, man, I mean, it's true. It's a different feel. It's different, man. To have this good of a defense that shuts the door on some great offensive players, and so it's going to keep us in every single game. And it's going to be on the offense to go out there and score enough points to win them.
There you have it, Patrick Mahomes' post-game press conference as yet again the winner of the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes has never played an NFL season or even been a part of this team in an NFL season where the Chiefs did not win the division. That is wild. I mean, that kind of thing is exceptional, and even as this season has not been exceptional, that part there that is something special. We'll take a timeout here on 810. We'll come back, talk a little more about some of the things we've seen from the Chiefs here, what it means going forward, and the playoff positioning going on from this point forward. Right now, the Packers up 10-0 on Minnesota in Minnesota, and they have the ball as well early on in the second quarter. We'll have that game for you, the second half, the conclusion, all that here, as we lead you up to your new year right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Third to 3, rushing 4.
That's dropped. Oh my goodness. Valdez-Scantling was about to turn it upfield for a big run.
And we know what team leads the NFL in drops, Jim. We've seen it happen over and over again this year. Costly mistakes by these Kansas City receivers, and this time it falls on Scantling. And that is going to be a possible touchdown. Oof. They used the double team on Kelsey. Took 2 guys out of there where he was. Great play call, but most drop passes in the NFL.
Yeah, that was an ugly situation. That's our ugly play of the game, brought to you by We Buy Ugly Houses. Owning a home can be a problem, an ugly problem. Repairs, taxes, mowing the yard. Let We Buy Ugly Houses be the solution. Call 1-800-44-BUYER or go to WeBuyUglyHouses.com. Real ugly in that moment, and maybe not even the ugliest play of MVS's day. I think that probably is, but you have to have at least two competing for it. And then the little gesture at his hip afterwards of him seeming to put his hands where he wanted the ball to be, and if that really was the point there, that sucks because Mahomes has fallen on swords for MVS all year, and there it sort of looked like he's saying, I wanted that ball on my hip, not on my pec. And you just don't have the ability to be that kind of picky there. They tried to get him some stuff shorter today, and I don't know. I do not know how you salvage that one the rest of the way, but a lot of the things that have worked for the Chiefs ended up working at times today. They were just, you've heard this before, inconsistent. Up and down. Self-inflicted mistakes. That was the story of the game through the first half, and if it had continued, it would have been the story as to why the Chiefs lost this game. But they do escape victorious, even as we saw the exact kind of thing that has derailed this team over and over and over again. We saw that all in the first half. In the second half, you saw at least some version of what the Chiefs have been telling us the last few weeks about this is what we're capable of. This is what us not shooting ourselves in the foot eventually produces. This is our best case scenario. You saw a lot of that in the second half today. I'll go to the playoff layout here, as I mentioned last segment as well. Our own Curtis Seabolt tweets, unless I'm missing something, Buffalo cannot come to KC in the wild card round. If they beat Miami, they're the 2 seed, and Miami comes here. If they lose, the winner of Indy-Houston comes to KC, as they would both hold tiebreakers over Buffalo. Indy would have a better conference record. Houston would have a better record against common opponents. So that, I think, is mostly correct, but then somebody else responds to Curtis there, where I think it looks like if Baltimore, Indy, and Tennessee win, or if Baltimore, Houston, if Baltimore and Tennessee both win, Buffalo could be the wild card that comes to Kansas City. That would require Tennessee beating Jacksonville in both of those circumstances, because then I think the Jags could be run all the way out if the Steelers and Jags both lose. Because stick with me here, if the Steelers lose to the Ravens and the Titans beat the Jaguars, then either Indy or Houston, the winner of that game, I believe, would win the AFC South, and they would not get a wild card team. If Pittsburgh, Indy, and Jacksonville all win, the Colts come to Kansas City. If Pittsburgh, Houston, and Jacksonville all win, Houston comes to Kansas City. There are some moving parts. We will know by the time Dolphins-Bills starts. We will know exactly what's on the line. And shout out to Phoenix Harrison, who had the additional info there along with Curtis's tweet. I would much rather see Indy or Pittsburgh. I think those are both pretty close to best-case scenario matchups for the Chiefs. You give Kansas City the Steelers at home or the Colts at home, I will pick the Chiefs to advance to the divisional round. You send Buffalo to Kansas City, or could Miami get here? Well, yeah, if the Bills win, Miami comes to Kansas City. Because they're in the playoffs either way. For them, it's just a matter of, do they beat Buffalo and win the division or not? Again, some of those details will come out in the wash as games actually go on next week. I'm getting ahead of year. Like, hey, you know what? It will be next year. Because it'll be 2024. That wasn't even a see you next year kind of thing. That just happened because I misspoke and got lucky. Love it when that happens. But you've got your view from here now. The Chiefs can do nothing to change their matchup. Obviously, the Chargers are not relevant in this conversation. The Chiefs are the 3 seed. They will host a game on Wild Card Weekend. They will be on the road if they win that game. They would be on the road if they have to head to the 1 or 2 seed, obviously, being Baltimore at the 1, and then whoever else ends up after that, but the Chiefs at the 3, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway. A lot of moving parts, a lot of looking at where the playoff matchups end up. But, over the last few weeks, there were some questions and some concerns about, is there going to be a playoff game to worry about at all here? And yes, there will be, as the Chiefs are once again champions of the AFC West. It's just kind of funny that I mentioned this at the very, very top of the show, kind of my thesis statement, my view from here as the Chiefs win the division and lock into their spot as the 3 seed. 3 seed is a disappointment from where the season began. Not the Lions game, but just like preseason expectations. You win the Super Bowl and you're talking about running it back again. You win the Super Bowl and you have the departure of Juju Smith-Schuster. Travis Kelce gets hurt right before the year, but then you see where the defense gets you. I don't think any of this has really changed. The Chiefs' expectations were to be the 1 seed. Their goals, their hopes were to be the 1 seed. This is not a team that ever, to me, felt like a 10-win team, but if they, secure their win here tonight, as they've done, they play backups next week and have nothing to show for it. They end this year at 10-7. Again, if Blaine Gabbert goes out there and they win, they're 11-6, and maybe that feels a little better, but functionally no different. It feels kind of right to say that the Chiefs end this year as the 3rd best team in the AFC, just by seeding. And it feels even more right that the Ravens are 1-1. But especially it feels right that we don't know who 2 will be. We just know it'll be the Dolphins or the Bills. And mentioning this earlier, one of the callers said, I don't really feel much about the AFC West and beating a division filled with some subpar opponents. Because, look, I don't, the way this Chiefs season panned out, they don't win the North or the East. They probably win the South, even though you could say, hey, if the Texans end up being a matchup in the playoffs, maybe you'd pick Houston to win because they've got some friskiness on both sides of the ball. That's all fine. That might be true. But ultimately, all you can do is win the division that you're in. Someone's going to have to win the NFC South, and they will also get hats and T-shirts. So I just don't think much really changes here today in terms of how we have felt about the Chiefs, other than, as we've said before, it's way more fun to talk about the flaws after a win than to talk about the flaws after they've cost you a game and potentially cost you a chance at your division and at your playoff berth. This is not a day of complete and utter celebration. This does not make the entire season a raucous success. But it's nice that the Chiefs wrapped up the division for real on New Year's Eve, that if you got any of those futures bets, they're paying out in time for 2024. And ultimately, the issues will be issues that we talk about in the playoffs and not the issues that keep them out of it. There are silver linings in a frustrating year, and that's true for every year, right? Not just in football, but in life. How about that? Bringing it full circle here on New Year's Eve. We'll take a timeout, and we'll begin to celebrate with, I don't know if he's the old man or the baby. We've discussed with Matt Derrick on Friday that Nick Jacobs may have to have a wardrobe change for their upcoming podcast edition together. We'll see if Matt Derrick feels like party poppers or a glass of champagne. We'll talk to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
division title. Browning stepping up and heaving it. Down for Higgins. The ball hits the ground, and Kansas City is going to take the AFC West for an 8th consecutive year.
Wow. I mean, I love it. It's a great throw decision. You got to give your team a chance. Throw it up to Higgins, but Kansas City was well prepared, and they defended that perfectly.
That right there was the play that sealed it. So it's our play of the game, brought to you by Central Bank of the Midwest. At Central Bank of the Midwest, every customer is a first-round draft pick. Central Bank of the Midwest, strong roots, endless possibilities, member FDIC. Great call there from Jim Nance and Owen Wilson. Wow, Jim. An incompletion. Wow. You okay, Dylan? I think I got Dylan on that one. Hell yeah. Yeah, but Jason's commitment to impressions has only made me realize further that I don't need to do them, because Jason's are usually pretty darn good. I don't have that range. But sometimes I hear Tony Romo. I think, wow. What color commentary? And then it eventually turns into It's a Wonderful Life. I go from wow into Mary. I don't know. They're all very close together. I don't have great range. But do you know who does? A man who can write. A man who can appear on your television program. A man who can podcast with the best of them. It's Matt Derrick. He's got great range here, and he is presented by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, the Chiefs did it. They did, in fact, lock up the AFC West. It is 8 in a row. What could you say about that? Ideally, a three-letter word in an Owen Wilson impression.
You told me to do a lot of things there, Josh. I'm stuck. I don't know where to go.
I'm sorry. You can listen. I'll tell people where to go. If they go to ChiefsDigest.com to read your work, the 41 is the Mic podcast with you and Nick Jacobs, and they'll open it up, and then they're just gonna look at ChiefsDigest.com, and they're gonna say, "Wow." That's what I've got. Have you figured out what? Do you know, or you'll be surprised at the rest of us? Do you know what Nick Jacobs' fit is going to be for the next 41 is the Mic?
I do not know,
okay.
But I'm as eager as everybody else.
I have to imagine.
And I mean, and trust me, I mean, I know that there's no way that I'm going to be able to match Nick when it comes to sartorial splendor for holidays. So I am not. There's no competition here, Josh. I am going to let Nick win that in a romp because I can't compete. I know where I'm beat. I know where my strengths are. I can't compete with Nick on that level.
I mean, and really, the winner is going to be everyone watching.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's what's really important. But what was important today from this game for you, Matt? Where do you look around right now and say, hey, that right there has an impact beyond just getting by the Bengals?
Interesting you should say that, because that was one of the things I was just talking to someone else about. And I mean, I think that one of the key plays for me in this entire game was that 67-yard play to Rashee Rice. Because if this team goes on a run in the playoffs, I mean, I think that's a play to circle, because this offense needed that. I mean, they needed a slump buster of some sort, something to prove to them that they can sometimes be their old selves, that even if they're not that way all the time right now, maybe that they're not that offense right now. I don't want to say no longer that offense, because that sounds like it's never going to be that way again, and maybe it won't. But I'm cautiously optimistic that as long as you got Patrick Mahomes, you got a chance to be that offense again. You just need the right people around him, and I think Rashee Rice is one of those people, absolutely, because I think he's been proving this all season long. But that's a play to circle, because they will need that again. I mean, they will absolutely need to hit the big play. Rashee has shown now that he is that kind of player who can make a play like that. So even if you can't make the hit with Marquez, you can't do it with Justin Watson, if you're struggling with other guys, if Rasheed is your deep threat guy and he just needs to be the everything guy, use him in that way. And if this offense got some – hey, look on the bright side, Josh. They had 7 scoring drives today. It's a lot of scoring drives.
Yeah.
I mean, that is glass half full, my friend. And, I mean, that's what it takes to get some, confidence into this offense and some swagger, which I think that the entire team was showing swagger at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They were celebrating this one for sure. There's no love lost between these two teams, as they like to say. But I think that could be a huge play. I mean, the defense, we already know it's good. There was nothing this defense needed to show me. That 4 sacks in 5 plays, I get it. Yeah, they're good. But this offense being able to make a play like that, now next time you need to get into the end zone, but other than that, I think that's the one moment that I'm going to take away from this game, and that it could mean something down the road.
I don't know how much time you spent in the locker room versus the presser room there, and there was a lot going on in the presser room, certainly. But what was the energy you saw as the guys were going to the locker room, and whatever time you spent, wherever you spent it today?
Yeah, it was definitely a different mood than there had been in the last few weeks in the locker room. Definitely a lot more joy, a lot happier faces, not everybody. That was probably still a little bit, they didn't open the locker room for till fairly late. So a decent number of players were gone, but there was still at least enough in there to give you the flavor. I think that my favorite part was Trey Smith taking his beer for his offensive lineman and his mates into the shower.
I saw him walking with a case of beer. I did not know it made it all the way into the shower. Celebratory shower beers. That's great.
It was meant to just be celebratory locker room beers, but when the media came in and the cameras came in, it was like, oh crap, we can't have our celebratory beers in front of the media. Let's go in the shower.
I don't know if that worked. And also, you totally could drink a beer. It's okay. We're all adults.
I totally bet the cleaning staff, however, greatly appreciates that.
That's true, actually. Yeah, go ahead and do all the champagne spraying in the shower. That would be ideal. What about from the pressers when you again? Actually, I'm not even sure if you were. I can't remember when I heard your voice when I didn't. But when you hear the message from Clark Hunt to Andy Reid to Patrick Mahomes, they got a lot of questions along the lines of like, what does this division mean, and what does it mean this year? Just kind of throughout that thread, and we got some different answers from different guys. But what do you get the sense of? Was this a deep exhale? Were they relieved to have this division locked up? Is there less excitement because this was a tougher path? Is this a team that is going to throw their AFC West hat straight into the garbage on the way out because they got other plans? How do you kind of balance what you were hearing there? Because, for Rashee Rice, he should keep that hat. For Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if he cares.
Yeah, that's a really good point, a really interesting question, because I actually thought about that while I was walking into the locker room for the very first moment, is that it didn't feel like the locker room, and certainly in 2016, 17, 18, any of those years. Yeah. That group, back then there were still so many players on the team for whom it was special, for whom it had never happened before. And you're right. Exactly. There's guys on this team. Chris Jones has 8 of those. What's another one for Chris Jones mean? That's not that ain't the hat he's playing for. Yep. As we like to, I don't know who actually ever said that. I may be the first time anyone's ever said that, but that's how we would say it back in the Ozarks. But yeah, I don't think it is. I think there's enough of these guys on this team for which, hey, it's a nice hat, but you really want the AFC Championship hat, and you certainly want the Super Bowl hat. But yeah, that's so I think there is a different tone. And there are guys in there who were excited. Rashee Rice, you could tell how excited he was. It's his first time. But for the guys who have been here around longer and have more of those, it is old hat, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hey, walk right into that one.
That's good. I like that.
But I too, I don't know. There's something probably to the fact that this was harder this time, so there was probably a bit more relief that it was finally done, rather than celebratory. Yeah. But I also think that even though nobody would really talk about it and acknowledge it, I still think that felt like there was a hint of frustration that it took this long.
Yeah, that I think is fair, especially considering where we were around, I think it was around the Halloween whatever side of Halloween it was on. It was around that game when I was saying that the AFC West was functionally over, and it turned out to not be that way. I guess I don't know. It's a rare instance of me being slightly wrong, but functionally, I mean, they never completely lost the top spot. But I mean, it did get messy as it went. Speaking of frustration, of the things negatively that could follow this game, what do you do with MVS now? I understand we heard a little bit about them maybe paring down some offensive things and paring down some rotations. I hopped over to place a couple of modest wagers on MVS overs today because I thought they would go to him and try to get that rhythm going again and make him feel like a part of this offense again. And Mahomes did hit him twice with what would have been 2 huge plays. And both of those times, MVS dropped the ball, literally and figuratively, in ways that are very hard for me to plan what you would do next here from. What do you do, Matt?
It's a complex question, and I wanted to start a little because you got me down this road in the first part of your question there. Remember, after Week 7, the Chiefs were 6-1.
Yeah,
they had a 3-game lead on the Raiders. And they were 4 games up on the Chargers and the Broncos. That should have been game over.
Yep.
That was the week when it was like, okay, you know what? Vegas just better start paying off the AFC West bets. So, can start circling around that money again. They had best record in the AFC. There was absolutely supposed to be no reason why. It was them in Philadelphia. They had the best record in the NFL. No reason why they should have, this should be a dogfight in Week 17 trying to clinch the division. But to your point, one reason why is because they have continually made mistakes that other teams have capitalized on, and MVS has been chief amongst them. I don't know what to call it. I don't know if it's a slump. I don't know if he's got the yips. I don't know how to clarify it, but I'll give him a break on the one deep ball. It was a difficult catch. I mean, could he have made it? Sure, a lot of guys could have made it. A lot of guys couldn't have made it, So I'll go both ways. But that crossing pattern, where he's just wide open in the middle of the field, there's no excuse. That is one of those. If it was a high school practice, he would have been required to immediately drop and give the coach 50.
Yeah.
You just cannot drop that ball. I don't get any sense that the Chiefs are just going to abandon Marquez. I think he's still going to be in there, but I just don't know how, if you're serious about truly trying to win the Super Bowl, that can happen. The guy is really struggling right now, and I know that you probably want to stick with the guy through that slump, but and maybe, hey, tell you what, next week I would imagine that the Chiefs are going to rest some of their starters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you classify Marquez in that case. Do you sit him because he's one of your starters, or is he going to get 60 snaps because he needs the work to try and break out of this? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time reckoning the receiver that we're seeing in the stats and the receiver that we're seeing on film right now, and saying this is a guy that's a starter for a Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah, and I really also am kind of two minds on some of it, because I completely understand when you are a already thin and now injured wide receiver group. The one guy who has been a professional, maybe not the only guy, but really, the guy who you saw be a professional veteran NFL wide receiver, he looks the most unplayable. I don't think this is an exaggeration, honestly, Matt. He's been the worst receiver in football this year. And if it's not him, it's Kadarius Toney, in terms of how much work they get and what happens when they get targeted. And I don't even think that's me just being super Chiefs focused. I don't know how you have a worse season than those guys have had. And I think that the upside of both of those guys is high enough that I completely understand why the Chiefs would have a hard time sitting them down. I don't have a definitive take. I don't have somewhere I'm even comfortable planting a flag, because when callers call in and say, hey, Justin Ross blindfolded could not be worse, I go, yeah, you're kind of right. It really couldn't be worse. And when you say, hey, this team is thinned out and doesn't have any good options, so just let it be the guy who has run a bunch of NFL routes, I hear you, and I'd say, yeah, no, I get that too. Just put him out there, and eventually his hands will start working again. But eventually is going to mean Week 18 or the playoffs. I am not asking you a question. I'm just saying the same things you said back at me, but in my own exasperated tone.
Well, and I will say this. I mean, this is probably the one miscalculation I think that Brett Veach and the front office made about Marquez, was that the expectation was that they felt like maybe Marquez wasn't always used correctly in Green Bay. So doing some things differently, getting different opportunities in Kansas City, and getting the chance to maybe be a different receiver or asked to do more things than he was asked to do in Green Bay was going to be good for him. And I think that probably the lesson learned here is that Marquez was a good receiver in Green Bay, and probably in part because Aaron Rodgers did elevate him. Yeah. And there wasn't really any way for Patrick Mahomes to elevate Marquez beyond the receiver that he was, because if Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to elevate him beyond that, why would it be different with Patrick? I mean, I think those are two of the best quarterbacks in the league when it comes to making more of the receivers that are around them. So that was probably the miscalculation. I mean, if you're going to be looking for a receiver that you think that your quarterback can elevate, it's probably because you're looking at a receiver that maybe underperformed with a bad quarterback, or overperformed with a bad quarterback, rather than a guy who is still pretty good with a great quarterback. And hey, Marquez is 29. It could simply be father time catching up with him. There could be a lot of reasons that he's struggling this year, but obviously he's not right now he's not playing like the receiver that you signed and not the receiver that you hope he'd be at this point in his career. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you keep playing him in the same role and expecting a different result, because that's, as we know, kind of insanity.
Yeah. I don't want to end our 2023 of these shows on some negatives. So one thing from each side of the ball here. What do you think, outside of the Rashee Rice stuff we already talked about, what did work offensively that does give you some potential hope for what the Chiefs are going to do down the playoff stretch that now we don't have to talk about as being a hypothetical anymore? What did you see, even first half, the second half? Obviously, red zone was an issue and a lot of Harrison Butker, but what was good offensively outside of the Rashee Rice big play, and really Rashee Rice's uses altogether?
Well, at the risk of making you cry and weep a little inside, run the football. They ran the football so well, and that's just one of the things that you need to do in the playoffs. You need to be able to run the football when you have to. You don't have to always run the football. I mean, the Chiefs have obviously done that before. They've won games where they didn't run the football effectively. But at some point, if you're going to want to get where you want to get in the playoffs, there's going to be a day where you're just going to have to lean on your run game to get you through, whether it's an entire game, whether it's a half, through a drive, you name it. And, this is my fear. I'll let a negative creep in before I let the positive come out. My fear for this Chiefs team is that their playoff loss is going to be Patrick Mahomes with 44 passes, Isaiah Pacheco, 8 carries for 23 yards. Yeah. Clyde gets a couple of touches, and that's how they go out. Yeah. I just don't think this team can afford that. I mean, I think that they need to run the ball, and today proved the fact that they can effectively run the football. So maybe not against every team, not against every defense, but that to me, I mean, Pacheco going for 130, that was impressive to me. I mean, especially the dude was just coming off a concussion. Yeah. And basically didn't practice all week.
My only disagreement is the way that my reputation has preceded me. Because listen, Matt, if you can
if you don't reflectively push back, I'll be very disappointed in you.
If you can run the ball for 7 yards a carry or throw the football to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I would take the carry. I would take the handoff, and because at the very least I could just trip and fall and lose 2 yards. I can just try to get down before I lose the football, and we could all have a happy New Year that way. So I am more than happy to see that, and it was a little over 7 yards a carry for Pacheco tonight. Also, the only designed runner. I just realized looking at the box score, Mahomes had a couple scrambles and a couple of losses there, but Pacheco, the only guy who took a handoff all game, is kind of interesting. Also, not great news for where they see the depth that's not Clyde or McKinnon, because Pacheco out of bed, like Andy Reid said, does lead me into another guy I wanted to highlight. Jamar Chase talks yesterday. Jamar Chase talks after the game. L'Jarius Sneed plays during the game, rolls out of bed after missing practice during the week, and Jamar Chase ends the day with 3 catches for 41 yards. You can make it a part of what his entire season has been, but give me what you got on L'Jarius Sneed, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I could really pontificate about a half a dozen guys on the defense who played really great today, but I mean, let's beatify L'Jarius Sneed, shall we?
Yep.
That was just the latest in a series of great performances, and considering how much he was ailing this week and truly didn't practice all week and just rolls out of bed on Sunday after getting that calf worked on all week and shuts down Jamar Chase and clearly is living rent-free in his head right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Jamar Chase's obsession with L'Jarius Sneed is, but if it's going to make him play like this, I mean, it's great, but L'Jarius is in everybody's head right now. I mean, he's living rent-free in everybody's head. It's been impressive. I've obviously seen shutdown corners play around the league, and I guess, I covered Marcus Peters, but Marcus Peters was the exact opposite of L'Jarius Sneed. And for every great thing that Marcus did, there were probably a terrible, terrible thing that Marcus did that absolutely left you in a bind. And L'Jarius is not that guy. So maybe he doesn't have the interceptions that Marcus Peters had, but he's also not going to kick a football into the stands.
Right.
Or, take his socks off.
Or reemerge sockless, yes.
Reemerge sockless after getting ejected or something.
Now, as long as you once again know who you're talking to, so far you've only said cool things that Marcus Peters did. What bad things did he do? I love Marcus Peters, and I will forever, and I'm cool with it. I know what he is, and I'm thrilled that we got to watch him while we did. But your point stands.
So that L'Jarius is this year and what he's really done over the last year and a half to me has just been incredibly impressive. I mean, especially because he is just equal. I mean, he's got plenty of confidence, but at the same time, he's incredibly humble. Yeah. I mean, really an easy guy to root for. I mean, he's not like other shutdown corners that you often hear about that just has this tremendous ego. I mean, he adds confidence. So I will give him that, but he also backs it up, so there's not really a problem for me with that. But he's also not like some guys that think that they're better than they are. I mean, I feel like L'Jarius appropriately thinks he's as good as he is.
Yep.
I mean, that's the special thing that comes with being a really good player. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys. Patrick's as good as he thinks he is. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's good.
Yes.
So that's not a knock against anybody, but it's only when you think you're better than you are that it's a problem. And for L'Jarius, no, that's not an issue. And like I said, I mean, he's just so easy to root for. So seeing him have this kind of stretch, I hope he stays in Kansas City, both for the Chiefs, for himself, for the fans. I mean, getting to watch a guy like that play at this level is really, really special because, like I said, other than Marcus Peters, I don't think I've seen anybody in Kansas City play at that level. It's really special, but I don't know what's going to happen this offseason. After today, I fully expect him to sign with the Cincinnati Bengals. Him being teammates with Jamar Chase would just be the most appropriate thing possible to happen.
It would be really special for a bunch of reasons, but I hope it doesn't happen. Last thing from you, Matt. Go ahead and give us one look ahead. You mentioned kind of what you were thinking about next week. I know Andy Reid didn't want to get any further into it because he's barely thought about it. I do actually kind of largely believe that. Travis Kelce needs, whatever I tweeted earlier, 16, 14, 18. What is it? What do you have?
16.
16 yards to get to 1,000. So Kelce needs 16 more yards to break that number once again. What's your guess for what happens next week when we'll talk post game regardless, I'm sure. But what do you think the Chiefs' strategy will be before we actually hear Andy Reid eventually tell us that maybe a little bit on Wednesday?
I mean, I think they will rest their starters. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs encourage Travis to play. I don't know how important it necessarily is to him to get it. I think he would like it, but I don't think that he's the kind of guy who's just going to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to play to get to 16 yards and then I'm out of there. But I think the Chiefs would like him to get there, to keep the streak going and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fair amount of prodding, encouraging him to at least go out there. The only thing I think is tricky is that if Travis is going to play to get his 16 yards, I think Patrick will want to be out there with him too.
Yep.
So he wouldn't want him to just have to go out there and do it alone. So I think it could be tricky, as far as drawing the line about who could and couldn't play. I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I wouldn't play Patrick at all. I'd use a practice squad elevation on Chris Oladokun and let him back at Blaine Gabbert. Maybe even get in some time if the game's out of control one way or the other. So I would rest as many guys as you've got. And the question is going to be just who's considered a starter right now and who's not, maybe on offense. But because honestly, I mean, I wouldn't mind going ahead and letting Rashee Rice play a lot just so he gets continued work and gets some snaps. I mean, he's a rookie; he needs as much work as he can. If you told me they were going to let Marquez Valdez-Scantling play 60 snaps to kind of get out of the system, I'd have no problem with that either. So, yeah, we'll see. But I would be very surprised if the majority of the starters didn't sit down. And like I said, I mean, maybe a couple of guys in some specific situations. You know, I had somebody ask me earlier, and I think it probably is a moot point, is, you know, Chris Jones and getting the 10 sacks as far as bonus money is concerned. I mean, the Chiefs would, I'm sure, gladly say, hey, Chris, we're going to sit you down, but we're going to pay your bonus anyway.
Yeah.
So those things don't usually matter that much when the guys are really close, but especially for your veterans that you're taking care of. So, and for all we know, maybe the Chiefs already told me they were going to pay the bonus regardless. So You never know.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the Kelsey side than the Jones side for that reason, because maybe Mahomes would like to get the start, and you treat it like a third preseason game or whatever, or not even a third preseason game, and actually definitely not a third preseason game now, because that's not a thing anymore. Maybe you treat it like your second preseason game, or even your first one. You give them like a series so they have something to prep for. I don't know if Andy Reid would rather them have the mental time off as well, or want to keep it through. He's talked about rust, and we've seen their preseason strategy often enough, but this is a pretty unique situation, since now it's not like this is going to lead into an entire week off. This would be the week off, but I think everybody wants Kelsey to get 1,000. I thought they might get a chance to try to force feed him a couple times late today and save themselves the trouble, but that will not be the case. So, Matt, appreciate it as always for the full year's worth, but really our year goes until, you know, the Chiefs lose or until there's a parade. So we will talk to you again next week, one way or the other. If we're talking about Blaine Gabbert throwing it to MVS 15 times, or if we're talking about Patrick Mahomes throwing it to Travis Kelce a few times, whatever it may be, looking forward to next week's chat, and then we get to look ahead to the playoffs. So have a happy New Year's, Matt, and enjoy your evening, and I will go ahead, and I'm just guessing, I'll go ahead and get the DraftKings. I'll take the under on Matt Derrick's bedtime, 11:59 p.m. How would I fare?
Oh, if you're taking the under? Yeah, you're gonna score on that one more than likely. Yeah, that's gonna pay off big time. Happy New Year to you and Dylan as well, and everybody else out there. I also want to say, don't forget to check out 41 is the Mic to see whether myself or Nick Jacobs dress up as Baby New Year.
One of you, I'm telling you, one of you might be in a diaper, even if we don't get to see it in frame. You know, you never really know.
Happy New Year, Matt.
I mean, at my age, Josh, I'm usually wearing a diaper.
Thanks, Matt. We'll talk to you next year.
Take care, guys.
That's Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, and as he said there, 41 is the mic with him and Nick Jacobs. One of them will be the baby. One will be the old man. Who will it be? We'll all find out together. Or maybe they'll just do some, great work, and Nick will be festive in the way that he was for so much of the Christmas season. We'll go ahead and wrap things up here ourselves as the Chiefs wrapped up the AFC West. Here's where I'm at, everybody. I'll put a cap on it here, and then we'll get to the entire second half of Sunday Night Football. Packers up 23-3 over Minnesota right now. The Chiefs won the AFC West for the 8th consecutive time. That is a mark worth celebrating. That is history. That is incredibly hard to do. And I really do hope that even if it's just tonight, I hope the Chiefs as a team, I hope Chiefs Kingdom as fans do actually take the time, whether you're getting the hat or the t-shirt or not. I hope you do take the time to zoom back beyond just this frustrating season and realize how ridiculous it is that for nearly a decade, we have been able to expect that the Kansas City Chiefs would win their division, and for almost a decade, we have been correct. That's an amazing accomplishment, independent of how some of those seasons have ended, independent of how this season will end. Whatever it is that happens, 8 in a row is tremendous. But the Chiefs want more, and you want more, as you should. The reason this team's been frustrating this year is because you know what they have. They have a great defense supporting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and some great moments from guys like Rashee Rice. But there have been miscues. Tonight, those miscues did not overcome their successes, and that's a victory. It's clinching the AFC West once more. But what will it mean when the playoffs arrive? I'm not going to worry about that until next year. Have a very happy and safe New Year's, Kansas City. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for part of it here on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Postgame Show. For Covell Hudson and Dylan Michaels across the glass, I am Joshua Brisco. Happy New Year, and bye, Mom.